you see anything? Anybody see anything? Yes? All right.
You got it? Okay.
You're getting it?
Yeah.
Okay. Audio? Be nice to hear. I did bring it.
Can you see Steve? I
got
can't
mine
see
on.
you.
We're going to see him.
We've got 4
You're going to be able to see him?
Oh, then
She
I'm
just
all right.
she
All right.
swings this as I do the intro, then it's all you. Okay.
Well, what fun is that for your fans?
They see enough of him.
All three of them.
They see enough of him.
All three of them work for
All right, get
Wisconsin
close to the
Eye.
mic.
Okay, we are live.
The mic is
We
there.
are.
And ready to go. Get close to the mic. Get close to the mic.
Live from Jenna's Lounge in downtown Madison, Wisconsin, this is WisconsinEye on Tap with Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch.
That was like a big reveal
Yes.
there.
Great.
Okay.
See, you've been in the biz, so you know all this stuff.
It's like a
boy.
natural wipe.
Yes. See? Very good. Thanks.
Governor, you will have an important role fighting homelessness.
Yes.
This is a venue we can talk about politics, homelessness, so let's talk about how you envision making a difference in our homeless population. What are your ideas?
Well, I have had tremendous opportunity over the last year and a half. A buddy came to me about that time and said, I have an issue I'd like you to study. I'd like you to check into it. And I said, oh my gosh, man, my plate is really full. I'm doing this. And he said, I really think you would be passionate about this if you would meet with some people. And I did. And sure enough, just as when you have another baby, your heart just gets a little bit bigger, it ends up that your plate can just expand and you can fit another issue about which you are passionate on it. And so I started touring the state, and you know that I'm a recovering journalist, Steve, and so it's really important to me to talk to the actual people and not just the providers or the not-for-profit volunteers or the government folks who are involved, because the thing about being a reporter or being a lieutenant governor is sometimes those folks will just show you the parts they want you to see.
Sure.
And if you talk with the people who have actually experienced homelessness, they'll give you a slightly different perspective. From touring a variety of places, and I mean urban and very rural and even some suburban areas of Wisconsin, all of which are dealing with homelessness and housing insecurity, you start to learn what works, what doesn't, and how government sometimes gets in the way. And on top of that, I started reading the book Evicted. And Matt Desmond actually, right,
Graduate degree.
exactly, who returned to the University of Wisconsin a short time ago, gave a lecture there, and after that he stopped by my office because we had a conversation that I thought was really important, because homelessness discussions are not simply about people who are living under a bridge, right, or sleeping on the grates outside the state capitol. It's also about housing insecurity. It's about people who are couch surfing. It's about moms who are in really desperate and bad situations because they have kiddos that they don't want to take to a homeless shelter. There's a whole lot of emotion that plays into this. So what I realize is that we need to help those folks who are experiencing both homelessness and housing insecurity. And one of the ways we can do that is by helping people with the wraparound care and the intensity and intentionality that it takes sometimes to get people independent again. Unfortunately, we noticed sort of a default mentality among some, certainly not all. There were some incredible actors that we met, but among some, to get folks instantly onto the next program so that they would get off of the current program that they were cataloged under, because that obviously makes a funding stream more reliable. Well, that's not what we want. That doesn't solve a problem. It instead just moves someone from one place to another place with government intervention as opposed to their own intervention and their own independence, something that could lead to a lifelong, sustainable change that would allow them to be completely independent, model awesome behavior for their kids.
So you decided you could widen your plate as Lieutenant Governor to include homelessness.
Exactly.
And you think you can make a difference?
Well, we already are making a difference, because if you saw the governor's budget, there are some really outstanding things included in that. As you are also probably well aware, the legislature decided in all of their wisdom to extract some of those things from their version of it and pass them independently as bills. But the cool thing was, a number of those legislators came to me even before the budget came out and said, Becky, I feel passionately about this issue as well. How can we help? And it's that team approach to a big issue like that that can honestly make a difference. And what you'll see in this bill set, what you saw in the governor's budget, was that intentionality and intensity of services, wraparound care to address all the different issues in order to get someone out of that housing insecure place into stability. And that's what we want.
Let's go to a different subject.
Sure.
We're talking on the day that the U.S. House passed the Obama replacement bill.
Yes.
It finally passed. A big concern is pre-existing conditions. You're a cancer survivor.
Right.
Can I ask you whether you think the bill that the House passed does enough for people like you with pre-existing conditions, please?
So this passed about an hour ago, so you understand where I'm coming from. I have not read the bill in its entirety. I, as I always do, have deep concerns that every member of Congress read the bill in its entirety before the House of Representatives voted. I hope and trust they all have, but I have a pre-existing condition. And one of the reasons I had great fear about Obamacare, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, was because I saw my pre-existing condition for my lifetime, right? And I watched a government program that would have taken a certain set of years, tax dollars, applied them to a very much smaller certain set of years programming. And I got worried because I watched different countries, Canada, the UK, make decisions, even the state of Oregon in their Medicaid proposal of years past, make really tough decisions based on a finite amount of dollars being funneled toward an infinite need. And I think healthcare is a need. I don't think it's a want. I can tell you honestly that when I had cancer in my gut, I didn't want cancer surgery, kind of needed it in order to live. And so those of us who've had cancer, those of us who have had diabetes or asthma or you name the pre-existing condition, we don't want to face a day where we're told to stand in the back of the line because there's not enough care to go around for people who have already had a lot of it.
So it did just pass, but do you think the House passed bill will help, is better off than Obamacare for people with pre-existing conditions?
It's tough to say. I think it is better than Obamacare, and here's why. You still cannot deny coverage to someone with a pre-existing condition, and it does not look like we will ever get to the point of rationed care. In the UK just this year, they told people who were obese or smoked that they were going to just kind of have to hold off on having surgeries. Can you imagine? In the United States, if you were overweight, as most of us walking around technically are, we were told, oh, so sorry, not you this year, because, you know, according to this charts that I have, your BMI is a little bit too much, so no surgery for you. Good luck. That's what rationed healthcare looks like, and that's socialized medicine, and that's in our friend and our neighbor, the United Kingdom, Great Britain. You know, someone who, you know, we are well familiar with, one of our greatest allies, that's what they're dealing with. If I had to wait 6 months to get a CT scan for my colon cancer, as I would have in Canada, I'd be sitting here talking to you dead right now, Steve. So I think this is a better bill because this will not deny people like me with pre-existing conditions the opportunity to get health coverage. What I need to research further is what happens in the waiver process. Now, I'm in government. That's a tremendous blessing to me because I can help and have a voice protecting people like me. from my own state government, because obviously it's the states, the 50 states, who are going to be applying for these waivers, right? And that's where the different interests come into play, because we're talking about waivers not only for Medicaid, we're also talking for exchange waivers, and also what things are covered. Right now we know in PPACA you've got the 10 different things that are covered. What all of that looks
package,
like,
yes,
is yet to be determined, right, by each of the 50 states. So I take great solace in the fact that I'm here so I can represent people like me. But what about the people in other states? You know, those are the people that I worry about. But as far as me in Wisconsin, and knowing that we're not going to be in a rationed healthcare world, which some people will say is far-fetched, but I can tell you, as someone living with cancer on my medical record, there's nothing that seems so far-fetched as being diagnosed with a grapefruit-sized tumor when you're 35 years old and being told you're genetic negative. This was a fluke.
We've never had a president like President Trump. He tweets at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. He never held elective office. What grade would you give him in about the 106th day?
Oh, golly. I think it's tough to grade. And I suppose as a reporter, I shy away from doing that in the first place. Okay. I'm supposed to be the unbiased one, right? Are you shucksing that I won't give a grade?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Give him a grade. Come on.
Yeah, no. Because
what about pass-fail? That's easy.
Oh, then we'll definitely pass, because I meet a lot with international delegations in my job. And in this past week, I met with the Turkish resistance, I met with the Japanese consul general, and then I'll meet with the Lithuanian ambassador tomorrow. And one of the things that our foreign delegations are telling us is, wow, your standing in the world sure has changed. We are commanding a lot of respect. Look at what has happened in the last week for our relationship between Canada and Mexico. The president comes to Snap-on Tools. The governor tells him that we've got a problem, and the president goes on stage and declares to the world, we've got a problem. And almost instantaneously, the Canadians are willing to reopen our NAFTA negotiations in order to assure that, our ultra-filtered milk will have continued buyers. Not only that, but we still will have a good relationship over soft lumber. This is really important stuff. Our standing in the world has changed. In just about a month, I will lead a trade delegation down to Mexico. There is no better time to be selling to our friend and our neighbor in our number 2 export market, Mexico, than right now, because our status, our standing in the world has changed. When I talked to the Japanese consul general, he said, your president ordered an armada within hair's breadth of North Korean waters, and within a week, all of a sudden, negotiations were reopened between North Korea and Japan in a way they have not been in forever. Our standing, our status in the world has changed. And for me, as a Midwestern mom of 2 little girls who just wants to assure that my little ones can sleep peacefully at night, get up in the morning, and grow up to pursue their American dream, because the blessing of being here in America is little girls can do that, I feel really good and I feel safe.
You mentioned the governor. He's said that he expects to announce after the budget is signed for a re-election. So why don't you make news right here and say, if he announces for re-election, you're going to seek a 3rd term as lieutenant governor?
Why don't we not?
Why not?
I'm sorry. What? Because that's something that is up to the governor, right, when he announces.
But your intent?
My intent?
Yes, just you.
I suppose I would imagine that I might follow suit. But you'll just have to stay tuned and find out.
Well, it's been said, and I'm not bright enough to come up with the phrase, that the role of lieutenant governor is to take the daily pulse of governors to be sure they're still okay.
Now, Steve, you're insulting me at the bar.
Well,
you're looking at a drink of water.
Then I apologize, and we can get you a beer. But thanks for drinking the water. No, really, what do you most enjoy about lieutenant governor?
It's hard to pick one thing. I get to do mission work every day, and I'm blessed by that opportunity to meet so many amazing neighbors who I never would have had the opportunity to get to know had it not been for this job. I've gotten to tour the state and become passionate about tax reform through the eyes of my friends and neighbors. I've gotten to, through my own small business experience, go into the businesses of other small business owners and see through their eyes their experience with government and how we can be less burdensome, less onerous on their experience living the American dream. I've gotten to meet with people who are going through hard times. I'm working hard so that people don't experience the type of poverty that, unfortunately, a lot of people still see. I've tried to work hard to get people second chances because I believe that we are born of a God of another chance. And I also see that we have deep need in our workforce. You know that when I first took this job, I worked really hard to get a lot more jobs here, right? That was our big problem. Today we have so many jobs, and I am just coming from a graduation at the Waukesha County Jail where I spoke to the inmates who had gotten their high school equivalencies, GEDs, and commercial driver's licenses, and I told them, and I showed them the website. I said, we have more than 103,000 open jobs on our free job search website. We need you to continue to make good choices. And then when you return to your community, as 97% of you will, we need you to take advantage of your second chance. Take one of those 103,000 open jobs and make us proud.
Preview of the Republican State Convention on Saturday, March 13th. Are the delegates different than 2 and 3 years ago, given Mr. Trump's victory? Are you looking at a wholesale change in the party loyalists out there?
Well, I think this is going to be the first convention since Donald Trump's election. I'll be curious to see if we have new people there, in addition to some of the familiar faces that we have seen over the last number of years. I'll be curious to see whether some of our outstate, very red county Trump voters, some of those folks who were judged in this phenomenon to have been your traditional Democrats who voted because of the economy and because of offshoring and because of kind of a change in the future of our economy. Though we have all of those jobs, it doesn't necessarily mean that job is right next door to the person who is seeking that job. Some of those voters decide that, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and full-on join the Republican Party, show up to their convention, and see a little bit more what they are all about.
We're almost out of time. One last question. Your husband hunts avidly. He's an avid hunter.
You've noticed.
He shows up in the press room in camouflage. It's hard not to notice. Do you?
Well, you know, then it's not doing its job, because you're not supposed to notice him if he's wearing camo. You know that, right?
It has. But here's my question. Do you eat all that he brings home, having hunted them illegally? Legally.
Yeah, yes. I was going to say,
legally.
Okay, all of a sudden we
Your
got
husband is
ourselves
a legal hunter.
into another half-hour podcast here, Steve.
My mistake, I apologize. Joel hunts.
I will, yes, he does. I will have everything he brings home. I've had gator, I've had wild boar. We eat a lot of venison, a lot of goose. That's probably what we have most, boar, venison, and goose. I'll have duck, I'll have pheasant. The one thing I won't have is squirrel.
That's where you draw the line.
I draw the line at squirrel.
Okay, thank you so much.
You can respect me more for that, by the way.
I can. Okay. Thank you so much.
Fantastic t-shirt, a couple more oversized buttons
Thank you very much.
I'm certain that the Democrat Party of Wisconsin will love that last 30 seconds. Without great opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Awesome answer in pre-existing positions.
Yeah, that's the truth. It's probably not what you were loving, but
It's the truth. That's the one thing that I am really, the one thing. I'm passionate about a million things. That's one that really needs to be fixed. And honestly, I don't have the answer. I'm not a federal guy, so I don't need to have that answer.
There's no way to proceed with the very critical part of the procedure. She's only 13, so now she'll have that here.
And she didn't do anything. She didn't do anything to get that hurt.
We were terrible.
Right?
She had this condition.
And that's the problem.
Marathon runners drop dead. She had that condition. It's very rare.
But I get it because
Children's hospital.
if you were a smoker and you developed lung cancer, or if you were an alcoholic and you blackened your liver, or if I don't know, were a daredevil, evil Knievel motorcyclist, and you got a spinal cord injury. I mean, these are risky behaviors, but you have to understand that insurance is designed to insure those people who live lives, right? There's a reason rates go up if you're on hospital. There's a reason rates go up if you are a smoker. There's a reason rates go up if you are an illicit drug user. But should rates go up for the person who had the thing rated?
Somebody who's 15 is almost still okay. What we don't know is this new $8 billion fund that brought the additional votes and greater constitution. We don't know what's going to